Returning now to the situation in North Korea, and the country says it will develop a plan by mid-August to launch 4 intermediate-range missiles at the US territory of Guam. It's the latest salvo in the very public war of words between Pyongyang and Washington. For more, I'm joined by Associate Professor Robert Kelly from Pusan National University. Robert, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
What are the ramifications of North Korea announcing a more detailed plan of a potential attack on Guam?
I think it's highly unlikely that North Korea would do this. I think the reason they selected Guam is because it's an all-American environment as opposed to striking American bases in South Korea and Japan, where the environment would be more mixed. But if North Korea were to strike Guam, it would unleash a war. I think this is just sort of part of the tit-for-tat of sort of rhetoric between Donald Trump and the North Korean regime. I think it's highly unlikely that they would do something like this.
Well, the North has dismissed President Trump's fire and fury comments as a load of nonsense, saying only absolute force can work on him. What do you read into that?
Yeah, I think Donald Trump is improvising in that statement, right? I mean, it's since come to light that his national security staff didn't approve that, and I think that sort of is Donald Trump being Donald Trump, right? I mean, he does this on Twitter too, right? He sort of says these things and they're sort of often outlandish, and he kind of shoots his mouth off and stuff like that, and then he and his administration are stuck sort of walking it back. I don't think it helps. I think it encourages the North Koreans. It sort of raises the temperature and raises the possibility of misperception and miscommunication and a slip and stuff like that. But the strategic situation between North Korea and the United States is actually fairly stable. Deterrence is actually fairly stable. There's no particular reason why this is the tip into World War III.
Do you just then expect this rhetoric to remain amped up and intensified, and that is all it will be?
I do. I think what will happen now is what happened a couple months ago. You may remember 2 or 3 months ago when Donald Trump talked about an armada sailing to North Korea and stuff like that, and it turned out the armada was in Indonesia. There's a lot of rhetoric for a week or two, and then it kind of faded away. That's probably what will happen this time. North Korea would lose a war immediately, right? I mean, they know this, so they're not going to launch a nuclear weapon at the United States out of the blue. The United States our America's allies would suffer enormous costs if the United States were to strike North Korea, so it's highly unlikely the Americans would do that either. That's why there hasn't been a war in 70 years. So even though we're getting a lot of this sort of heated talk, I think it's highly unlikely that there's actually going to be a conflict.
Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert says the US will continue to apply pressure on North Korea. In what form, then, do you think that will take?
It's probably going to be 2 things, I think. The first is missile defense. The North Koreans and the Chinese have objected to American missile defense in South Korea. I think since the North Koreans insist on testing so many missiles, there's really just no other alternative than to put in more missile defense. I think that's the future strategically on the peninsula, is a sort of race between missiles and missile defense. And then China, right? China is North Korea's pipeline to the global economy. If you can constrict that pipeline, it's harder for North Korea to import the luxury goods that its elites want. It's harder for North Korea to get the technology for its programs that it wants, right? And that's, I think, the future is, can we get the Chinese to collaborate? And it's been good that the Chinese voted for that UN sanction the other day, the harder new sanctions the other day. So it's good news.
Associate Professor Robert Kelly, I'm afraid we're out of time, but thank you for your insight today.
Thank you for having me.